Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi, y'all. This is Jerry Williams, a.k.a. TV Jerry. Most cinemas have discount tickets on Tuesdays, and now AMC has added a Wednesday discount for members of their Stubs program, offering 50% off standard adult tickets with upcharges for large format experiences. If you're in the Richmond area, there's only one AMC theater, the Dine-In Midlothian. This starts on July 9th.
One couple, I remember one evening in the Bird Theater, I was just asking people where they'd come from. And there was this couple that stood up and they said they came from Australia just for the festival.
That was Dr. Peter Kirkpatrick talking about the impressive reach of the French Film Festival, which ran in Richmond from 1993 to 2022. The festival was created by my guest today, Peter and his wife, Dr. Françoise Revaud Kirkpatrick, who were professors of French literature, culture, and film studies at Virginia Commonwealth University and University of Richmond, respectively. And it became the largest French movie and culture showcase held outside of France. It included feature-length and short films, symposiums, masterclasses, and more than 900 guest directors, screenwriters, actors, cinematographers, music composers, and artist technicians. We couldn't cover almost 3 decades in one show, so this first installment will talk about how they met and starting the festival with some great stories from the surprise drop-in guest. Next time, we'll delve deeper into the changes, challenges, and ultimately closing of the festival.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Mobland on Paramount Plus. In another of his typical tough guy roles, Tom Hardy plays the fixer for a mob that's led by Pierce Brosnan and Helen Mirren. The series focuses on 2 warring crime families with lots of threatening conversations and a few violent moments. Guy Ritchie directed the first 2 episodes to establish the brutal approach to the interactions and the action. The showrunner is Ronan Bennett, whose Day of the Jackal on Peacock is one of the season's best new shows. This series isn't as compelling, although it's fun to see Brosnan and even more so Mirren play evil. Hardy gruffs his way as usual. The moments of violence are surprisingly more subdued and off-camera than expected, leaving those scenes less riveting. The thing that makes this series worth the watch is Mirren's diabolical character. Otherwise, it doesn't offer anything new in the genre, and it's been done better before. I gave Mobland 3.5 out of 5 stars. Peter and Françoise, welcome to the show. Now, Peter, you've been on before as a surprise guest way back in 2022. Technically, it was for the Pocahontas Refrain Festival, but you were showing one of their movies at your festival, at the French Film Festival.
Yeah, we've had that partnership with the Pocahontas Refrain Film Festival, and it was Jack Kohler who was showing a film that he made, and we decided because of our partnership with them, we were always showing a Native American film in order to announce that festival that takes place every November, the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Footnote.
I'll have a link to that podcast on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com. And why did you decide to do that?
Well, actually, the Pocahontas Refrain Festival grew out of our festival. Brad Brown, who's the director of that festival and a member of the Pamunkey tribe here in Virginia, after attending several meetings, organizational meetings with the Virginia Film Office, VCU members, U of R members, and also some of our board members from the French Film Festival, we saw that it would be possible to do a Native American Film Festival here in Richmond, and it needed a director, and Brad Brown not only stepped up to do that, but he's done a tremendous job directing that festival. And every year there are First Nation filmmakers, Native American filmmakers, people from South America, Central America coming to show their films. And I think Brad in the next year or 2 is going to venture out to have also some films by some Aboriginal filmmakers in Australia as well as in New Zealand.
Cool. I'm going to try to get him back on the show. We've tried a couple times and he's been slammed. Oh, by the way, I should have said bonjour. It is Saturday morning. First of all, what are your backgrounds and how did you meet?
I came to the United States in 1967 and I studied at Michigan State University. I did a master's degree and a PhD. And then I got a position at the University of Richmond, a tenure track in 1973. And I've been at the University of Richmond for 50 years.
Wow. Actually, I started at RPI in 1967. Too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which of course is VCU now. Peter, how about you?
In academia, this is pretty rare. I was raised in Richmond since I was 4 years old. My family originally being from the Shenandoah Valley, Lexington, Virginia. So I knew Richmond, went to grade school here, went to high school, also was an undergraduate at University of Richmond, and then did my master's and my PhD in French civilization at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. After I finished my PhD, it was on the job market, and different universities were interested in me, but VCU had a position they were creating, which was right in my specialization. And so when I saw that tenure track job was open, I applied for it and luckily got it because actually for a couple who are in academia, it's pretty rare to be in the
Very rare.
same city, both tenured and at different universities, and you're not using one salary to track across the United States, every weekend to be together. Actually, Francoise, one thing that she didn't in her background mention, and it's actually one of the first times that I actually saw Francoise was when she was at the University of Richmond. She put together a French theater troupe that had different francophone, francophile, well, actually all francophone speakers.
Yes. And at the time, when I studied that, we had a master's degree at the University of Richmond. So I was able to do theater with the undergraduate students, but also the graduate students. And that was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
Francoise with them, they would travel around Virginia, but also the plays they would do every year would be at the University of Richmond. And I remember I discovered those plays, and I saw this person who was directing these plays, but also starring as usually the main actress in the
Mhm.
plays. I love since high school, I was been into photography, and so I asked them if I could take pictures of the play performance just to document it for them. And so, I was there in that the University of Richmond connection. And then to answer your question about, ultimately, I had a Fulbright teaching assistantship in France, and Francoise was on a sabbatical. And so during my PhD and during that Fulbright thing in France, we met up again
Mhm.
and we came back married. That was in 1990. So 1990. So this is our 35th year of marriage.
well. Let me ask you before we go any further, Francois. That was you in the play, right?
Yes.
That's one other thing. Where were you from in France?
My parents are originally from the eastern part of France, but I spent times in Germany and when I was a kid, and also in Africa.
Oh
I
wow.
was born in Morocco, and we went to Algeria, Madagascar, and Senegal. And I studied in La Sorbonne in Paris, so I don't know really where I'm from.
So you said you met each other again and you ended up married. So
Yeah.
was the attraction instant the first time you saw each other, or did that build over time like in so many movies?
So yeah, I guess there's several movies can be made out of this, but I do remember the first time, yeah, I saw it, and that was just a changing moment in my life, and that day feels like it was yesterday.
And Francois, did he pursue you, or were you instantly smitten as well?
I think he pursued me.
There was and I've never written this up, but the radio station in France asked me to do it one day. So back, 30 plus years ago, really before the internet had audio and visual and things like that, even before the internet, I would get up every morning about 5 in the morning to listen to Radio France International on shortwave radio.
Wow.
This is not like today where you can listen to all these radio stations and TVs in
Right.
France through the internet and stereo and
Right.
quality and everything. I would wake up and I would record those on a cassette tape, and I would make a point to drop those off in Francoise's mailbox. And so Radio France International and those tapes was a way that I always stayed in contact with Francoise without being annoying to her.
Wow. Well, that is a good movie. There's a movie in there somewhere. So how did the festival actually start?
So it was when I arrived in 1992 as a tenure track professor at VCU. The chairman came into my office one day and he said, like, I know Francoise and I know your CV, Peter. I mean, you all have so many contacts in the political realm, the literary realm, the music realm, and cinema and journalism in France. Is there something that you all can create that would attract more American students to the French major? And he left my office, and I got home, told Francoise about it, and we started talking about do we do like a literary circle? We bring in French authors, and then we think like, well, we have a lot of French music connections, and do we do a music festival? And actually, we even had asked French musicians that we had interviewed for different French newspapers and magazines. And we contacted a few of them, and like Jean-Jacques Goldman and Francis Cabrel and Etienne Dao, some French singers. And when we asked Jean-Jacques Goldman, said, we'd love to have French music festival and have you in Richmond. And he said, Peter, I'd love that. However, when I travel with all of these instruments and about 20 people.
Oh,
And,
wow.
it's expensive. And so we went and said, like, let's try a film festival, French film festival. Because actually, growing up in Richmond, we used to have the old Biograph Theater.
Sure.
We had the West Hampton Theater, even the Burr Theater at certain times would show.
And in Washington, you had still a lot of small cinemas.
Yeah.
Right. The last one just closed. The East Street
Yeah.
just closed,
Yeah,
sadly.
exactly. Yeah. And so, there was films that I had grown up seeing, French films and everything, but there was also at that time in the 90s, some people had been burnt out on French films, people saying that, oh, they're psychological dramas, they're always depressing, there's never like a happy ending. And I was thinking like, why is this? Because, we would go to France and we'd be seeing, comedies, short films, documentaries, historical dramas, and saying like, no, people have the wrong idea about French cinema. So we tested it out on the VCU campus the first year, and it was standing room only. I mean, it
Wow.
was packed. And so we really hit a nerve. It was not only students and professors and staff members at our university, but also the community coming in to see these. And it was free. And so the second and third year, we said, well, let's do this in a cinema. And we actually renovated the old Biograph Theater that had been closed for years.
Right.
We got the VCU paint team in there. They painted the inside of it. I took the projectors apart with an electrician. And so anyway, we did the second and third one showing 35 millimeter films. And also what we did ever since the first one, we started with Jean-Paul Rappeneau, Cyrano de Bergerac. So we would do teleconferences after the films with the directors. The third festival, we wanted to go to the Burr Theater because we wanted it, instead of showing films twice and things like that and dealing with people and lines and crowds and stuff, we wanted to go in a Bird Theater. At that time I had 1,400 seats in it, and just show a film once, have a community viewing, and have the physical actors, directors, writers, and everyone come to present their films, and just celebrate film and have these Q&As. We couldn't convince back then. It was a guy who was more interested, I think, in sailing than in the
Dwayne.
Bird
Yes,
Theater.
Dwayne Nelson. Yeah.
Dwayne Nelson, yeah. When we asked him, hey, we need a bigger theater. Can we come to the Burr? He goes, no, foreign films don't work. They don't bring any money. Can't do it. And he came over to where the Biograph was, and he said, oh my gosh, I had no idea there's many people can come to your thing. And he goes, okay, for the fourth one, you'll come. The fourth French Film Festival, that was actually when we started weaning ourselves away from the teleconference Q&As and physically bringing in guests. And Terry Lhermitte, the French actor who was, a famous actor and a dear friend now, he was the first to come. And I remember he walked into the Burr Theater and goes, wow, he goes, man, I've been all over the world to present my films, but this place still exists. This is amazing, with the organ. And he fell in love. He became one of our best ambassadors of the festival. And from there, it just blossomed and grew into, bringing in, when before COVID hit, every year we were bringing in close to 65 actors, directors, screenwriters,
Yeah.
artists, technicians, short
And selling
film
out
makers.
every show.
Yeah, yeah. The Burr Theater that's what made it possible in a way, because the French people go like, hold on, I was just in Richmond, Virginia, and a theater that has 1,400 seats, packed even at 8 o'clock in the morning for short films. And I've been told by American buyers of foreign and independent films saying, oh, there's not a market for your film, we can't sell it. And, people would be standing up, clapping and asking
Right.
questions. So it gave them a charge and an energy to find out that here in Richmond, there was a cinephile public that just wanted more and more of these films. This energy that it created in so many different ways for our students, for the public, for the actors and directors that come over. It was almost like a drug, It was just
Yeah,
for us
yeah.
and for the public. It was like, it was just like, it was a lot of work, but when it would happen, it was truly a little magical and almost a miracle also every year.
Yeah. Interestingly, Terry Ray was on the podcast a year or two ago talking about the Biograph. That was a very popular show.
Surprise guest drop in.
And since you know about surprise guest drop-in, Peter, We have one for you. Speaking about the old days, hold on 1 minute. It's been waiting patiently from Georgia, and I don't mean the state of.
Hello, how are you?
Oh my goodness. There's Richard.
Footnote.
Richard is Richard Hazelwood, who worked for the festival from 1999 to 2002, including being associate director. He currently lives in Tbilisi, Georgia, as an international development professional.
It's so nice to see you guys.
Oh, Richard, man, I tell you, I don't know how many days in the last 2 years, Francois said, we got to call Richard. We got to write Richard, and you sent us two beautiful emails. And with our retirement and everything, we've just been, people always say you're more busy when you're retired, right?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Our festival grew in such a way, but there was a pivotal moment in the history of our festival, and it was with Richard Hazelwood. And
Yep.
it's so fitting. It's so fitting because he was one of our students. He was one of the interns that actually turned our festival in a new direction. In fact, I remember the outreach that he did with our PBS affiliate station here in Richmond. I remember also Richard and coming to the Cannes Film Festival with us each year.
Peter borrowing your shoes.
Yeah, I remember I had to borrow your shoes to walk up the red carpet.
Air France lost their luggage. Every time.
Yeah, lost luggage. Riding the motorcycles and Vespas around, getting to different film screenings. Yeah, those were the early days of Cannes for our festival. And every time we think about it, and we think about you, Richard.
About you.
Now, Richard, actually, you were a student of mine, too. Weren't you an intern? Isn't that how we met?
I was an intern for both of you guys.
Right. At the same time. And that's how we all got connected. So, Richard,
Yeah.
what do you remember about working with Peter and Francoise all those years ago?
You know what? These two individuals, yourself too, Jerry, but these two individuals, they were so pivotal for me. Yes, I was an intern. Yes, Peter was my professor. But really, they were like the older brother and sister. By the end of it, after 5 years, 7 years, they were the older brother and sister that in Virginia for me, because my family was elsewhere. We went through so much. But it was such a learning experience for me and such a period of growth. In my early 20s, I was not only their intern, but I was their first full-time employee. And so, working with the festival, I got 2 years of tuition paid for at VCU. So I was able to get 2 more degrees just because I was working with them. But
Wow.
every day with Peter and Francoise is an adventure.
Do you have any adventures you want to share with us?
Yeah. What do I remember most? I think there's 2 things that really jumped out at me. First, one of the key lessons that I learned from both of them is dare to imagine the impossible. I was always amazed that they never saw any obstacles. Francoise would say, let's do this. And I would say, well, we can't do that. And their response was always well, why not? And so one of my favorite memories that sticks out still to this day, I think there was a French Impressionism exhibit at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. And they had all these French flags outside the museum. And then one day Peter comes to the office. He says, oh, yeah, I went to the museum. I said, hey, what are you guys going to do with all those flags? And so we had like 60 French flags. And I was like, what the hell are we going to do with 60 French flags? He's like, we're going to put them all the way down Cary Street. I was like,
I remember
right.
that. Yep. Every year they were all over Carytown. Yeah.
We said, okay, so how are we going to do that? Okay, so first we got to get a permit. So we went down to City Hall and we got a permit. And then I said, well, who's going to put them up? He's like, we're going to put them up. It's like, how are we going to do it? He said, well, we need a bucket truck. Well, where do we get a bucket truck? Well, we just rent one. I was like, I didn't even know you could rent a bucket truck. So we went, rented a bucket truck, and then went out one night, I think 2:00 in the morning, the 3 of us. We went out on Carytown. We had some traffic cones. I think we probably, quote, borrowed them from VCU from someplace. And we went all the way down. It took like 3 hours, and we went up in the bucket truck and posted these flags all the way down. So like 4 hours it took us. So like 4 a.m., Claude Denis from Jean-Jacques Bakery, he was there and he was making the croissants. So he came out and he brought his coffee. But it just taught me the lesson, never see an obstacle. Just we can do whatever we want as long as we figure out how to do it. And another key lesson that they taught me is Peter in particular, it's often, especially when it comes to budgets, it's often easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Absolutely. We all know that one in the production community. Yeah. By the way, I just want to add to the listeners, because they can't tell it, Peter and Francoise are giggling and smiling through all of this. They're loving these stories. So go ahead, Richard.
They also always treated me with patience and kindness and caring and compassion, and they were always very supportive. I know one year my task was to get a 12-person van from the university and drive back and forth, I think from the Linden Row Inn, and take the actors and directors back and forth from the Bird Theater to the Linden Row Inn back. But so I'm driving this 12-person van, I'm taking a left, and all of a sudden, bam! I T-boned smack dab into a car at 11:45 at night. And I'm like, oh, damn. And I'm driving a state of Virginia van. And I got out. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I got to the other driver. I said, are you all right? Everybody's fine. Nobody was hurt. And then I said, well, I think we need to call the police. And he said, don't worry about it. And he pulled out his badge and he was a cop.
Oh, wow.
I had hit an off-duty police officer in the fan. I called Peter. I was like, Peter, I know remember, he's got 60 guests in the Bird Theater and movies going on. He came down to meet me on the street with the police officer. We talked through it. And the guy said, why'd you run the stop sign? And we looked around and the stop sign had been removed.
Oh, wow.
So in any case, we got through it. We exchanged information. We got all the things. I got a
Did you
ticket.
give him some free tickets to the movie?
we didn't give him free tickets to the movie. Peter didn't get angry. He even went to the court case with me. I think 2 months later, he went as a character witness for me. And he said, listen, the stop sign is not there. Some vandals removed it. And so the judge gave me a ticket anyway. Said, well, you should have known the stop sign should have been there, which I still take issue with that. I think you even paid for my ticket and paid for driving school or something.
Oh, wow, driving school.
But, through all the adventures, all the mishaps, I can't ever recall a single time that either one of them got angry, and they entrusted me with a lot.
Oh, it's a joy to see you, really.
You know, and Richard, without you,
Yeah.
we would not have had a festival.
No. But also, I remember when Richard and us, we discovered at the beginning of Buzz and Ned's barbecue, and we would drive all the way up to Green Top Fishing and Hunting Store up in Ashland in order to have a Buzz and Ned's barbecue out of their stand. And then I remember the day when Buzz decided to open the store on the boulevard. I remember Richard's like, it's right here, man. We can go whenever we want.
I remember also after many festivals, the three of us crying because we made it. And we were so tired, exhausted, and crying, the three of us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, often we would be crying after the festival.
Out of sheer exhaustion.
Oh, it was exhaustion. And also the three of us would swear between the three of us that we would never do another one.
And then the next year came around. There you were.
Yeah.
It's just like, we'd go off to the Cannes Film Festival, with Richard, and we discover new films, and we, see directors or actors that had been at our festival already saying, oh, yeah, I'd love to come back with a new film. And
that was it.
Yeah, that was it. And so then we'd start looking for French interns, and everything would just create itself again. But as Richard said, and Jerry, you said, from a financial point of view, nobody, in their right mind would do this festival.
Right.
You committed to the airplanes, the invitation, the hotels, the rental of the films from producers in France and stuff like that before you had the first dollar. And so, you would just hopefully by the end of the festival have enough money that would pay all the bills.
Well, Richard, I know the three of y'all could reminisce for hours here, but I'm going to let you get back to your Saturday in Georgia. And we're going to get back to talking about the festival.
Seriously, Richard, when you're in Richmond, we want you to stay here with your family. Yeah.
Most definitely.
Good
It's
deal.
so wonderful to see you all.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
We love you.
That was Dr. Peter Kirkpatrick and his wife, Dr. Françoise Revaux Kirkpatrick, founders of the French Film Festival, which ran in Richmond from 1993 to 2022. We'll continue our discussion of the changes, challenges, and closing of the festival in a week.
Coming soon. In theaters.
Karate Kid Legends. The spin-off from the original classic features Ben Wang as a kung fu prodigy who enters the ultimate competition, also starring Jackie Chan and, of course, Ralph Macchio. Bring Her Back. A brother and sister uncover a terrifying ritual at the secluded home of their new foster mother. It's created by the twin brothers who made Talk to Me, which I gave 1.5 stars. Jane Austen Wrecked My Life. a single bookseller, goes to a Jane Austen residency where she encounters romance and more.
TV and streaming.
Bono, Stories of Surrender. On Apple, Bono shares life stories and U2 songs in an intimate show exploring relationships with family, friends, and faith. It features previously unseen footage from his Beacon Theater performances of Stories of Surrender. Mountainhead. On Max, Jesse Armstrong, who created Succession, is making his feature directing debut with this satire about four billionaire friends uniting at a ski lodge during a worldwide economic crisis. It stars Steve Carell, Rami Youssef, and Jason Schwartzman. The Better Sister on Prime. Chloe navigates life with husband Adam and son Ethan while her sister battles addiction, and his murder unveils long-hidden family secrets. With Elizabeth Banks, Jessica Biel, and Matthew Modine. Department Q on Netflix. In this crime series, a former top detective gets a new case while still suffering from guilt following an attack that left his partner paralyzed. From the creative force behind The Queen's Gambit and Godless. Adults on FX and Hulu. A new comedy that's been called a Gen X version of Friends, with Nick Kroll as executive producer. The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu has its final episode on May 27th. And Just Like That on Max returns for the third season. Next week, I'll feature the creators of a fascinating documentary that started right here in Richmond and is now on Netflix. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
Visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.